team, yo, we never go away.
Intercepted. That's Joe Hayden into the end zone.
We got stopped.
Pick six. They're just on another level right now.
Steelers are 11-0.
Chiefs trying to put the pressure on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, during that music video, if you will, Mooch turns to me and says, you know, what happens if they have the same record? It may come down to common opponent. Cynthia Freeland projects the home team would win a potential AFC championship game, by the way. So that's another thing on the line here. It's just you want to be at home. Kansas City doesn't want to go to the confluence of the wind blowing, and obviously Pittsburgh would love to stay home and not have to go to Arrowhead for that game. Steve Mariucci, which one of these teams do you think has the best chance to win the AFC shooting match when it's all said and done?
Chiefs. The Chiefs. You know, do you remember that few years ago, that greatest show on turf thing that we had?
I've heard of them.
You know, Kurt, why did you guys have a nickname? I mean, nobody else has a nickname except you guys. And the Chiefs have the best offensive personnel and offense since that era, all right? The quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, the receivers, the personnel, the scheme, the whole thing. They're fun to watch. They are an exciting team. Don't forget about their defenses, the 6th-ranked scoring defense as well. But Travis Kelce, and then you got Tyreek Hill. Before the Seahawks played, they were #1, Mike, and #2 in receiving yards this season, okay? Right. Now DK Metcalf just jumped up in front. You know when the last time 2 receivers from the same team were 1 and 2 in the league in receiving yards? Back in 1980, the San Diego Superchargers, right? Yeah, with John Jefferson and Kellen Winslow and Dan Fouts. They were 1 and 2. This team might be that. It's an exciting team. I think they have the best team.
Well, and you look at a complete team, and you might say, well, it's the Steelers. They're undefeated. They're good on offense and defense. But you mentioned it, Coach. To me, it's about the quarterback. You've got the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes. We've seen what he's done in the biggest moments. So when it comes playoff time, it's about that position. What does that position do when everything is on the line? And this guy just doesn't lose. This guy can find ways to make plays over and over again. So both good football teams. I love what Pittsburgh's doing across the board, but I'm going with that guy right there, Michael.
Yeah, and conventional wisdom would tell you to go with that guy, but let me just caution you just a little here because you just watched what the Bucs defense did. They held them to manageable points, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Pittsburgh's defense is better than that. So if Pittsburgh defense can just simulate what the Bucs defense just did to them, and Ben Roethlisberger, and it's the part that I'm watching, and I say this is what's going to help them. The Pittsburgh Steelers right now, they're winning football games and not playing their greatest football. That's going to help them down the run. Because you guys know, when you win a football game, we go in Monday, we're watching film, but we're not really studying. We're really having fun because we won, and it's a jovial time. But when you play like they played the last couple weeks, like they played against Dallas, like they played last Wednesday, dropping all of those balls, you come in, even though you got that win, and you focus and you study. And Pittsburgh is doing that right now to help those young guys when they get in the stretch run. Be careful, Pittsburgh will be able to play with them.
And I think you make a great point, because I know when we get to the first week of the playoffs, we're going to ask about experience versus inexperience. And you saw on that stage some of the young players dropping balls and struggling in those moments. And so much of the playoffs come down to those guys stepping up, guys that are going to have the ball in their hands, stepping up and making those big plays. You've got proven guys in Kansas City, young guys in Pittsburgh. How does that translate come playoff time?
Chiefs have Denver tonight at home, at Miami, at New Orleans. Home for Atlanta, home for the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Steelers have, after Washington football team, they're taking on the Bills in Buffalo on Sunday night next week. So the Saints have a big game against the Chiefs coming up. That could be a Super Bowl preview, but first comes first, the 3rd straight start for Taysom Hill, James Palmer.
And, Rich, most of the teammates I've talked to said the transition to Taysom Hill has been relatively smooth because all he has done since he's been in New Orleans is observe Drew Brees on a daily basis and mimic everything he does. But before he got to New Orleans, he was in Green Bay studying on a daily basis another future Hall of Famer. Now, Taysom Hill says that as an athletic quarterback, everybody thinks if things break down, I'm just going to run the football. But he said watching Aaron Rodgers is how I want to operate. I want to use my legs when things break down, get outside the pocket, pocket, buy some time, and still look downfield. When he faced the Falcons 2 weeks ago, Rich, in his first NFL start, he went to each wide receiver and said, if I start running around, keep working for me, I'm still looking to throw the football.
All right, James, thanks very much. So Todd Gurley is expected back in this game. He was out last week. Jerry Jeudy expected to go as well. I mean, DeAndre Swift missed the last couple of games with a concussion. Now he's under the weather and may not go for Detroit against Chicago. Tua is expected to start for the Dolphins. So nice guy. Hey, guys, maybe Michael Irvin would like Kurt to know that today is the 88th day of the season.
Oh, my God. Hey, way to go, baby. It's the 88th day, Kurt, of the season. That overrides 13, Kurt.
Well, but tomorrow.
This year, Wentz is making $40 million in cash. Next year, $25 million guaranteed. That's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue, if they cut Carson Wentz after the season, Rich, it is $60 million in dead cap money. What does that mean? They basically can't do it. It is almost impossible to move on from Carson Wentz. They have no choice, at least for next season, to try to get him right.
And thus, you know, obviously trading him is an issue on that front as well. It is hour number 2 of NFL Game Day Morning, presented by Lowe's. We put the home in home team. Yeah, and the last we saw of Carson Wentz on Monday Night Football against Seattle. It was a game the Eagles could take because the Eagles' defense was not letting Russ cook very well, and if they could have just put some points on the board, if they could have just given the defense maybe even extra first down to sit back and not get put back on the field. I mean, so on and so forth. And then we did see, Kurt, we did see Jalen Hurts hop in there. You know what I mean? We did see him and then come right back out. And the question is, like, what's the point of all that if he's just going to make one throw and connect in a way that we, you know, didn't see Wentz do with consistency? So I'll throw to you first, Steve. You've got this is the hot button subject in Philadelphia right now. Should the Eagles bench Carson Wentz?
Well, based on what Ian just said, you would certainly not do that because you have him. He's with you, all right? You're joined at the hip for another year or two. But aside from the money, right now, they are fighting for that division lead, all right? If they win, everybody loses, they're in first place. So I wouldn't touch it. You don't bench Carson Wentz. You're hoping he snaps out of it. You're hoping he gets better. You're hoping he puts some of those fantastic plays that we've seen, you know, and he strings them together in order to win a few games here. We all know that there have been offensive line injuries, receiver, a whole thing. Jalen Hurts would have the same situation if he were to play a team that can't help him win games. So you just work through it, fight through it, hope this guy, you know, plays better than he has. And I'm just worried a little bit about his confidence, Kurt. Yeah. He's been sacked and hit too many times, and I think it's affecting him.
No doubt about it. And, you know, we have to be realistic here and take a big picture approach and go, okay, well, first of all, the coaches see Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts every day in practice. We get to see one day a week battling against another team. And, yes, there has been big-time struggles, and he isn't playing like the Carson Wentz that we saw a couple years ago. But, you know, the coaches know the big picture. But I will say, yeah, I think it's time to start considering benching Carson Wentz. And that doesn't mean you trade him. It doesn't mean he's not going to be on your roster next year. That doesn't mean he's not going to start later in the season. This just in. I was benched a number of times throughout my career. You can get benched. You can get away from all this pressure and all this talk and feeling like you've got to go out and make every single play to quiet the noise, or you've got to battle to be that MVP guy you were a couple years ago. Sometimes you do need to just step back, take a deep breath, and then relax a little bit and get put back in there, and you can play better football moving forward. It can be done, and I think they need to start considering it, Michael, because as you said, Coach, the confidence isn't there. He's pressing. We've been saying that since early in the season. We've got to find a way to get him back so he can play at that MVP level, because we know he's got that capability in him. Just something is awry right now.
Yeah, and you know what sticks out in my head, because that's what we do. We measure it all. I see it in Dallas right now. Everybody measuring what Zeke makes against how he's playing now. We just heard that Carson Wentz is pulling $40 million. That's a career high, but on the field, he's giving you all career lows, and that's an issue. You know, career low in percentage, completion percentage, career low in passing yards per game, career low in passer rating. And the biggest issue is he's not protecting the football. Now, this is the one thing right here. He's leading the league in interceptions. He's not protecting the football. But I go back to what Kurt says. Only 3 times we've allowed Jalen Hurts throw this ball this season. 3 for 33 yards. That's it. Somebody's seeing something in practice that they're saying, no way we can allow this to go on in the game. I've seen enough of Carson Wentz to say maybe you should sit him down, but I haven't seen enough of Jalen Hurts to say, okay, play him. That's the issue.
And for Hurts, I'll be honest, I kind of feel for him, right? I mean, he may not be ready. To your point, Kurt, and obviously, Steve, you're the coach. They see you in practice. We don't. You know, they may know and just say this would be a non-starter, and we're all sitting here saying, put him in there. But I feel for him. Here he was in college, right? He was in there in Alabama, faced the program, and the championship head coach decides to make a switch in the middle of the championship game to the young kid. And now he's the young kid, and the championship head coach refuses to bench the face of the program for him. And it's just, he's got to be sitting there saying, did you not see what I did in college? I can at least lead. I can at least maybe take care of the football. I can at least not take a sack. He's also leading the league in sacks taken.
Yeah, Rich, but one way they can hang out with each other, I mean, Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, is they can both say, we got replaced by somebody that won a championship.
You know, look, man, you're right. And also to your point too, I mean, Ben